Imagine walking your dog on a calm afternoon, when suddenly, a man in a security uniform jumps out and points a gun at your chest. No warning, no reason, just pure intimidation. But here's the twist: the moment he realized who he was threatening, everything changed. What happens next will shock you. It was just another seemingly normal Tuesday afternoon. The sun was shining, birds were chirping, and the neighborhood was quiet. Too quiet, as it would soon turn out. My wife was walking our dog along the tree-lined streets we'd grown so used to, enjoying the calm and the routine. She had no idea that in just a few moments, her life would be put in immediate danger. Out of nowhere, a man stepped from behind a hedge. He wore what appeared to be a security uniform, complete with a badge and a holstered gun. But there was something off about him. His movements were jittery, and his eyes darted nervously around, like a predator sizing up prey. Before she could even ask what he was doing, he pointed the gun directly at her, shouting for her to stop. Her heart raced, but she didn't panic. She raised her hand slowly, instinctively trying to calm the situation. "Please put the gun down," she said, her voice steady, even though her pulse was pounding in her ears. The man didn't respond logically. Instead, he barked more threats, claiming some authority over the neighborhood. He called himself an enforcer, someone who policed the area and made sure everyone followed the HOA rules. Neighbors began peeking from windows and doorways, drawn by the chaos unfolding outside their homes. Some froze in shock, others grabbed their phones, ready to record. The tension in the air was palpable. Every second felt like an eternity. My wife knew that one wrong move could trigger disaster. She maintained eye contact with the man, moving with caution, calculating every word and gesture. What the man didn't know, what no one on that street could possibly guess, was that my wife wasn't just an ordinary resident. She was trained, calm, confident, and capable under extreme pressure. And she was about to turn a terrifying, life-threatening encounter into a test of nerves, one that would completely unravel the fake authority standing in front of her. As the seconds ticked by, the street seemed frozen in suspense. A confrontation that could have ended in tragedy was about to take a shocking turn, one that would leave the neighborhood speechless and the man completely unprepared for what was coming next. As the tense standoff continued, the truth started to become clear: this man wasn't who he claimed to be. His uniform, which had seemed official at first glance, was cheap and poorly made. The badge on his chest was a mock-up, plastic and fake, and even the patch on his sleeve looked like something printed from a home printer. The gun in his hand, however, was real, which made the situation even more dangerous. He introduced himself as some kind of HOA enforcer, someone who had the authority to enforce neighborhood rules. Apparently, he'd taken it upon himself to patrol the streets and intimidate anyone he thought was breaking regulations. He was clearly delusional, and his confidence was built entirely on a lie. The irony was that he had no training, no legal authority, and no backup, just a false sense of power that had brought him to this moment. My wife remained calm, speaking slowly and deliberately. She asked him to put the weapon down, trying to reason with him without provoking him further. Every word she spoke was measured, her body language relaxed but aware. She knew that in situations like this, panic could trigger a deadly reaction. For a moment, the man seemed to hesitate, uncertainty flickering across his face, but his ego and desire for control kept him frozen in place, gun still raised. Neighbors watched silently from behind their curtains and fences, their fear mixing with disbelief. Who was this man? And how had he convinced himself he could threaten someone without consequences? It was like a scene straight out of a movie, but the danger was real, and it could have escalated at any moment. Then, in that critical instant, my wife realized something that would completely shift the power dynamic. She wasn't just an ordinary resident. She was an FBI agent. Years of training, real-world experience, and countless simulations had prepared her for moments like this. Her calm under pressure wasn't luck, it was skill. Every move, every word, was calculated to de-escalate the situation until backup could arrive. The moment she considered revealing her identity, the man's bravado started to crack. For the first time, doubt and fear replaced his false confidence. He had assumed he was in control, that his weapon and his fake authority would intimidate anyone. He had no idea who he was really facing, and soon, the truth would hit him harder than anything he had ever imagined. For what felt like an eternity, the man stood there, gun raised, trying to maintain the illusion of control. My wife, steady and composed, kept her hands visible, her voice calm, her body language non-threatening, but every muscle was ready to react if needed. She was trained for these moments, and her years in the FBI had taught her that fear was only dangerous if it clouded judgment. Then, with barely a whisper, she activated her secure radio and silently called her unit. Her signal went out to trained professionals who were minutes away, equipped to handle exactly this kind of high-stakes, high-risk situation. Meanwhile, the man remained oblivious, his eyes flicking nervously from her to the empty street, completely unaware that his entire facade was about to collapse. Within moments, the unmistakable sound of approaching vehicles and tactical gear hitting the pavement filled the air. FBI agents emerged from the shadows, moving with precision and authority, their badges and guns clearly visible. The man froze. He had spent so long trying to intimidate my wife with his fake authority, but now real authority had arrived, and it was overwhelming. Panic overtook him almost instantly. His confident stance wavered. His hand trembled over the weapon as he realized he had miscalculated entirely. No amount of bluster or intimidation could hold up against trained professionals who had faced dangerous criminals far more dangerous than him. Neighbors, who had been watching silently from behind their windows and fences, gasped in shock as the street transformed from a scene of terror into one of controlled precision. The standoff, which had seemed endless, reached its tipping point. My wife's calm presence and the timely arrival of her unit forced the fake HOA cop to back up, disoriented and unprepared. Every second now worked against him. His mind raced, trying to think of an escape, but the tactical formation of the agents left him no options. Finally, he dropped the gun, hands raised, shaking and defeated. The tension that had gripped the street for so long dissipated instantly, replaced by a mix of relief and disbelief. What had begun as a terrifying, potentially deadly encounter ended with the imposter fully exposed and utterly powerless. My wife's composure, and her team's swift intervention, had prevented a tragedy before it could happen. Once the fake HOA cop dropped his weapon, the FBI agents moved quickly and decisively. Within seconds, they had him handcuffed and restrained, making sure he couldn't reach for anything or cause further chaos. His face was pale, eyes wide with panic, and his body trembled. The bravado he had carried just moments earlier had completely evaporated, leaving him exposed and vulnerable. The neighbors, who had watched the terrifying confrontation unfold, were in shock. Some whispered to each other, still unsure whether what they had witnessed was real. Others stepped outside, phones in hand, capturing the arrest on video. It was surreal. The man who had terrorized their quiet street with a gun and a fake badge was now being taken away like any ordinary criminal. As the agents led him to a waiting vehicle, questions were already flying. Who was he? How had he gotten a real gun? What was his plan? Authorities later uncovered that he had no legal authority to carry a firearm, let alone confront residents in his so-called role as an HOA enforcer. Further investigation revealed that he had a disturbing history of escalating confrontations with neighbors, though most had been too afraid to report him. Throughout the ordeal, my wife remained composed, a stark contrast to the fear and confusion around her. Her calm demeanor and quick thinking had not only prevented a potential tragedy but had also ensured that the situation could be resolved safely. By the time the man was in custody, the street had returned to an eerie quiet, the weight of what had just happened hanging heavily over the neighborhood. Authorities later confirmed the seriousness of the charges he would face, including illegal possession of a firearm, impersonating an officer, and threatening civilians. His so-called enforcement tactics had been nothing more than intimidation, and now he would answer for his actions. The arrest sent a clear message. False authority and threats of violence are not only unacceptable, they are punishable under the law. For the neighborhood, it was a wake-up call. They had narrowly avoided a disaster, and the presence of real authority, trained, disciplined, and lawful, was what prevented this incident from ending in tragedy. The fake HOA cop had learned the hard way that pretending to wield power comes with consequences, and for my wife, it was a reminder of the value of training, composure, and preparedness in the face of danger. After the fake HOA cop was taken away, the neighborhood slowly began to process what had just happened. The quiet streets that had felt safe for years suddenly seemed different, charged with the memory of a near tragedy. But amidst the shock, a sense of relief and gratitude spread. Everyone realized how close things had come to turning deadly, and how much training, calmness, and preparedness had made the difference. For my wife, the incident was a powerful reminder of why her FBI training mattered. Staying calm under pressure, thinking clearly, and taking measured action had not only protected her but prevented the situation from spiraling into violence. The fake cop had relied on intimidation, but real authority, the kind backed by experience, law, and skill, had completely neutralized him. It was a clear demonstration of how composure can outmatch aggression, no matter how threatening it seems. Neighbors began talking, sharing what they had witnessed, and for many, it was a wake-up call. People realized that someone pretending to have power could be dangerous, but that threats can be managed safely if you stay alert and take the right precautions. The story spread quickly, online and offline, serving as both a cautionary tale and a lesson in courage. Ultimately, this was more than just an arrest or a frightening encounter. It was a lesson in awareness, preparation, and responsibility. The fake HOA cop had overstepped every boundary, and he paid the price. Meanwhile, my wife's calm, confident response showed that knowledge and training can turn even the most dangerous moments into manageable situations. For the neighborhood and anyone watching this story, the message is clear. Never underestimate the importance of being prepared, staying calm, and knowing when to act. Bravado isn't power, preparedness is. And sometimes, the quietest, most composed person in the room is the one who holds the real authority. And that's how a quiet afternoon turned into a full-blown FBI operation on our street. What started as one man's fake authority ended with a powerful lesson about real discipline and law. My wife's calm under pressure didn't just save her life, it protected the whole neighborhood. If you found this story gripping, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next one. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done in that situation? Thanks for watching, and remember, real courage isn't loud, it's calm, steady, and ready.